There are moments in sport that arrest time by the sheer specificity of their truth. May 12, 2019, Scotiabank Arena. The scoreboard tied at 0.9 seconds on the clock. An inbound pass to the corner. The ball leaves Kawhi Leonard's hand, arced and certain, meets the rim, bounces 4 separate times, and then falls. It is the first Game 7 buzzer beater in NBA playoff history. For a sliver of a second, the entire city inhales together. For a slightly longer second, history rearranges itself to accommodate a single act. That shot does not merely win a series. It converts a season into a legend and a player into an immovable node inside the league's memory. The facts of that night are simple and precise. Kawhi scored 41 points in that game, and the Raptors advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals on a 92-90 Game 7 victory. That would become a pivot for a franchise and for him personally. Start there, the present image that functions as a hinge, and then walk the timeline backward, the way memory often does. The moment forces you to see the upbringing, the selection, the unseen labor. This story is not about mythic inevitability. It is about accumulation, impulses, measured decisions, medical margins, and the deliberate opacity of a player who will allow his game to speak while his life remains quiet. Kawhi, the name that distilled a strange mixture of defensive excellence and late-game calm, of surgical fundamentals and almost ritualized silence. Kawhi Anthony Leonard was born June 29, 1991, in Los Angeles County, California. He grew in Riverside and later played college basketball at San Diego State University, where his emergence carried a steadiness that did not always register loudly in highlight reels, but did in scouting reports that prized 2 traits: competitive instincts and a measuring of action before motion. The 2011 NBA draft was an inflection point not because of spectacle, but because of the chain reaction it produced. The Indiana Pacers selected him with the 15th overall pick and immediately traded his rights to the San Antonio Spurs in the draft night transaction that sent George Hill to Indiana. That trade, June 23, 2011, put Kawhi into Greg Popovich's system, a structure notorious for turning raw competencies into disciplined excellence. The Spurs were, at the time, a factory of roles that prized intelligence, tone, and timing over celebrity. Kawhi fit the model but also stretched it. In the 2013-14 season, the Spurs reached the NBA Finals against a Heat team led by LeBron James, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh. Kawhi's defense on LeBron became the headline. In a 5-game series that concluded on June 15, 2014, Kawhi Leonard scored 22 points in the clinching Game 5 and was awarded the Finals MVP at age 22. A fact that underlines both his precociousness and the uniqueness of his contribution. A two-way impact in the most unforgiving moments. That Finals MVP was not only an individual honor, it was a statement about Popovich's ability to find players whose temperaments fit the franchise's ethos. Kawhi's 2014 Finals performance announced a new archetype, the modern superstar who anchored both ends of the floor. If the 2014 Finals marked a young man's arrival, the arc that follows is a study of constrained motion, the ways injuries, load management, team calculus, and personal choice intersect. The Spurs-era Kawhi accumulated consistent defensive honors, All-NBA nods, and the sort of quiet statistical production that rewarded watchers who measured impact beyond box score simplicity. Yet, starting in the 2016-17 season, the narrative began to include medical language, tendinopathy, quadriceps soreness, management protocols. The Spurs medical staff diagnosed issues in his right quadriceps in 2017, and that diagnosis launched public conversations about load management and the limits of transparency between player, franchise, and media. Kawhi's situation became an early, high-profile example of the league's evolving willingness to treat minutes and rest as strategic variables rather than purely reactive measures. In July 2018, Kawhi Leonard became a free agent and elected to sign with the Toronto Raptors on a 1-year, $21.3 million deal. a decision framed by both basketball logic and personal calculus. The Raptors organization bet on a short, high-value window. Kawhi bet on an opportunity to both win and control the narrative of his health in a new context. The seasons that followed vindicated the gamble in dramatic fashion, but only after a sequence of volatile episodes. His 2018-19 playoff run is a statistical behemoth. Kawhi scored 732 points in the postseason, one of the highest single postseason totals, and produced a set of performances that culminated in the buzzer beater over the 76ers and ultimately in a 6-game finals victory over the Golden State Warriors. Kawhi's Finals MVP in 2019 was historic in another sense. He became the first player in NBA history to win Finals MVP in both conferences, San Antonio in 2014, Toronto in 2019. That franchise championship, Toronto's first, was a seismic civic event for Canada's most prominent franchise and a permanent reordering of how the league imagined franchise building outside the United States. Kawhi's game is a study in efficiency and economy. At 6'7" with a 7'3" wingspan, his physical profile is not merely a list of measurements. It is the platform that allowed him to do two improbable things at once: defend elite wings and finish in tight windows. Defensive metrics loved him. Defensive Player of the Year in 2014-15, elite on-ball and off-ball metrics. Rotational timing that read like anticipation rather than reaction. Offensively, his shot profile across peak seasons included high percentages at the rim and careful, effective isolation scoring. In the 2018-19 playoffs, he averaged 30.5 points per game through the series against Philadelphia in the conference semis and sustained a level of scoring and usage that few expected from a player whose mainstream identity had been defensive first. The basketball truth is often sculpted in such paradoxes. A player whose name is whispered for defense becomes the author of a championship's most explosive offensive chapter. The human side of Kawhi's decisions, why he left San Antonio, why he chose Toronto for a single season, why his public presence is spare, intersects with organizational calculus in a way that rewards nuance. The Spurs and Kawhi's separation involved disagreements about medical treatment and availability. The public read those disagreements as dissonance. Who controlled the story? Who held the medical notes? Who decided the acceptable risk? Those procedural questions are not theater. They are real determinants of minutes on the court and ultimately of locker room chemistry. For front offices, the calculus is cold and precise. You evaluate availability risk, peak value, and organizational fit. Kawhi's 2018 decision to join Toronto on a 1-year, maximal but temporary contract created a position of leverage. Win, and you can define your next destination. Don't, and your options become fewer. He won, and winning redrew the map. After the 2019 championship run, Kawhi signed with the Los Angeles Clippers in July 2019 to a 3-year, $103 million deal, a return to Southern California that satisfied personal geography and financial logic. But the post-championship chapters would again emphasize the fragile arithmetic of health and the demands of protection. The Clippers era featured promise and plateau, knee issues and load irregularities that produced seasons of high expectations, punctuated by inactivity. For a franchise accustomed to investing billions in talent acquisition, Kawhi's availability became a central determinant of projected success. The clinical reading of his seasons required parsing games played, minutes per game, and the quality of those minutes. How many were playoff caliber? How many full 48-minute tests? A careful reading of the data shows a player whose peak outputs are extraordinary, but whose availability curve is uneven. The league's conversation about load management, a term that describes routine rest and strategic absence to prevent injury exacerbation, often used Kawhi as one of its seminal case studies. In the 2018-19 regular season, Kawhi played just 60 games for the Raptors, a number many noted. Management choices, including minute restrictions and rest, were discussed by analysts in both supportive and critical tones. The paradox is clear. Teams wanted him as a postseason engine, but also needed him available during the regular season to seed playoff positioning. Balancing those demands is part of the art of contemporary roster building. Let us be precise about the moments people return to when they talk about Kawhi. The 2014 Finals quiet authority, a 4-1 series win for San Antonio, and a Finals MVP at age 22. The 2019 postseason, the 4-bounce buzzer beater on May 12 against Philadelphia, a 41-point Game 7 performance that stands as one of the postseason's singular acts. And finally, the Raptors series over the Warriors that concluded on June 13, 2019, with Kawhi named Finals MVP again. A rare feat that put him in a unique historical light as a two-time Finals MVP across conferences. Each fact changes how you read the rest of his career. The public reaction to Kawhi's career oscillates between two poles, the reverent and the suspicious. Some fans worship the efficiency, quiet heroism delivered through a minimum of words. Others fixate on availability. How many playoffs were missed because of load? How many times did a franchise invest faith in a body and receive partial returns? Both readings have merit, but neither suffices on its own. The fuller view synthesizes Kawhi's on-court peaks, 2 Finals MVPs, multiple all-defensive team honors, and evolving offensive repertoire register as elite. His intermittent absences complicate the narrative, but do not nullify the elite moments. The right question for historians is not whether he was perfect, but what the combination of peak level and constrained availability tells us about how modern basketball values players. Kawhi's 2019 playoff scoring, 732 postseason points, places him among the highest single postseason scorers in NBA history. That output is not merely an exercise in volume, it is a demonstration of endurance and situational dominance across series. The Game 7 buzzer beater is the narrative adrenaline shot, but the season's broader body of work is what made that shot meaningful. Consistent creation, late-game calm, and a willingness to accept contested desperation in moments where lesser players might hesitate. Equally important is the cultural aftershock in Toronto. The 2019 Raptors championship was, in many ways, a civic conversion. A Canadian city crowned as an NBA champion for the first time, a moment that altered institutional identity and fandom patterns. Kawhi's name became part of a civic archive, parade photos, chants, and the plant guy meme included in the wider folklore. For Kawhi personally, the achievement allowed him to choose his next move from a position of agency. He left Toronto a champion. The market rewarded him with a deal in Los Angeles that aligned professional ambition with personal geography. In evaluating Kawhi's legacy, we must hold productive ambiguities. He is a case study in the modern superstar's dual currency, elite performance and existential risk management. He is an exemplar of defensive excellence turned offensive punctuation. He is also an example of how contemporary franchises and media cultures handle intangible elements like privacy, medical confidentiality, and narrative control. In quieter terms, he teaches teams how to think about investing in sporadic but game-defining availability. Is it worth higher price and higher strategic opacity? For GMs and analysts, the calculus is messy and strategic. For fans, the calculus is emotional and often binary. If you look at the statistical ledger and the calendar of events, you see a player with a compact set of overwhelmingly decisive moments. Drafted June 23, 2011, Finals MVP in 2014. Trade and free agency movements culminating in the 2018-19 Raptors miracle. Game 7 buzzer beater on May 12, 2019. Finals clinch on June 13, 2019. And ongoing seasons of managed minutes and injury negotiation thereafter. Those are the nodes, the connective tissue, the stories of rehab, the quiet film sessions, the small changes in footwork, is where the real craft lives. In the end, Kawhi Leonard's story resists tidy moralization. He is both the archetype of modern two-way excellence and a symptom of the league's evolving relationship to player health and organizational patience. He changed teams, he commanded attention without courting it, he produced moments that will be played for decades. He leaves us with an argument rather than an answer. Do we prefer the steady accumulation of conventional dynasties or the compressed, intense brilliance that rewrites a franchise's history in a single season? Kawhi's life in basketball prompts us to accept both possibilities. He offers proof that one shot can become a hinge and that a career measured in both silence and impact can be, in its own way, a loud and complicated kind of success. When you return, in your memory, to that corner shot in 2019, remember the web behind it. A young man from Riverside who learned to finish under pressure. A draft night trade that placed him under Popovich. A 2014 finals that announced him to the world. Years of private medical negotiation. A risky one-year deal that altered a franchise. And the final currency of triumph. A championship that allowed him to move where he wished. Kawhi's legacy will sit at the intersection of those nodes, and it will be debated, recontextualized, and admired in equal measure. For now, the image persists. The ball bounces 4 times, and in the small sound of each contact, a complicated career finds a rare moment of unambiguous consummation.